Welcome back, dreamers. Your host Ken here with some exciting news that I just couldn't wait to share. Somewhere in Dreamland now has an amazing new merch store filled with custom Somewhere in Dreamland hoodies, t-shirts, coffee mugs, pint glasses, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? Why not hop on over to dreamlandpodcast.weebly.com and grab yourself or someone else some custom Dreamland gear now.
Danser avec moi. Cordonnier, t'es bête, qu'est-ce que t'as-t-on dans la tête, bête, moi.
Welcome back, dreamers. Tonight, my guest is Ryan Fusco. Ryan is a cryptozoologist and ufologist from Pennsylvania who has captured and collected a mountain of compelling evidence throughout his career. Adding to this, Ryan is the lead investigator of the incredible Okalahoma incident and the top researcher of the Pennsylvania Owlman case. So without further ado, grab your blankets, turn down the lights, get comfy, and let's fade away into
Dreamland.
Hey Ryan, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm not too bad, man. I'm glad I finally got a chance to speak with you, man. You've come highly recommended. Tim Swartz and Lon Strickler and all those guys. They talked you up and they said you need to get this guy on your show. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. This field has been it's been pretty fun, but it's also been pretty wild at times. So I'm glad to be here.
that's the best part about this field is that you never know where it's going to take you, you know?
Oh, you got that right. You got that right.
So let's start with a little bit of background about yourself so that my audience can get to know you a little bit. And give me a little bit of background and then how you got involved in all this crazy high strangeness.
Well, I was born in Antarctica. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so, no, I was actually born right outside of New York. Anyways, fast forward a little bit. I grew up in New York. When I was 8, we moved to Pittsburgh, and that becomes important because that's the first time I saw anything of the sort that I guess would qualify it as the UFO field. And basically, me, my dad, my brother were going down this road. It was towards Christmas time, and it was when Hills was still around.
Oh yeah.
I remember seeing Hills as we were passing. They come down the highway, and all of a sudden, this green, I guess, orb. Or at first, I thought it was a shooting star. I did, but as it got closer, it started dropping debris onto the car. You could hear it hitting off the top of the car and everything. And my dad was like, "What is going on here?" So we pulled over, and sure enough, and I think I said this on Tim's show too. As we got out, you could see the debris. It was like disappearing in a way. It was like smoky, and it was disappearing off the car. And my dad checked to see if there was any damage, and there really wasn't any damage. And that was the wild part. But the crazier part of that was it didn't go out. It went back up into the air and disappeared.
What did this debris look like?
It was, it was smoking. And as it was smoking, it was disappearing. So I remember my brother going, "Oh, look at that piece right there." And it was right on the tail of the car. And as I went over to go touch it, my dad's like, "Don't touch that." And but anyways, as I got close to it, it just disappeared. Like it just that's what it did. It just disappeared into nothing. But it was the same. It was almost the same color as the light, but you could see a little bit of red ember burning in it. I guess that's what it was. I was 8 years old. But it disappeared, and there was no damage on my dad's car, and that was it for that. I remember, and thinking about that, and so anytime I saw anything remotely close to that, I would just think in my head, wow, I wonder what that was. I wonder what, fell out of the sky that night. But it didn't fall. It went right back up into the air. That's the crazy part.
Huh. So let me ask you what could be the strangest question of the night. So you grew up in Pittsburgh. You're not a Steelers fan, are you?
No.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, and we'd have to end this call right now if that was the case.
I'm actually a Vikings fan.
Okay, that's all right then. That's all right.
Yeah.
I had to get that out of the way first.
I like Cleveland. I don't mind Cleveland. So
yeah, we got a few things to work on, but
it's all good. All teams, they're too unpredictable is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. What happened after that?
All right. So about a couple years later, I was 13, me and we were at a cookout at my aunt's house, and we were up on the back of the hill. And so we're just sitting there, BSing around or whatever. And my dad goes, "Hey, Ryan, look at that." And I looked up. Sure enough, there was a silver disc just sitting in the sky. And it was very high up. I remember because it took my eyes a minute to adjust to it. But once they did, you could see the sun glaring off of it.
Wow.
And I was like, "Dad, do you see this?" He's like, "Yeah, it's crazy." And it was just sitting there. It didn't even move. And it was probably there for about 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden, it was boom, it was gone. And I was like, "Wow, that was crazy." I was like, "What was that, Dad?" He's like, "I don't know. I don't want to talk about it." But since that, as soon as that happened, I was like, the field just took me over. I did what I could. I tried to get everything. I tried to order stuff off of backs of magazines and stuff like that, because the internet just wasn't up to its par then, I guess. But yeah, I did what I could, and then finally, when I was like 16, I started looking into stuff around my area, and I found a couple things. But other than that, I got my number out there. I asked people if they saw anything. And this is actually a funny story. I went to the police station, and I said to the lady, "You guys have any UFO incidents?" And she goes, "Excuse me?" I said, "Yeah, UFO incidents." She's like, "Are you being serious?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." She's like, "Yeah, I don't think we have any of those." She goes, I think maybe you should probably just walk out." I was like, "Okay." But the funny thing is, I ran into a cop, I think it was a year later at a gas station. And I asked him the same thing. He was like, yeah, we got a couple. I was like, "Oh, of course you do." But yeah, I got my name out there doing that. So yeah, so I started taking local cases, and then from there, it just snowballed into, bigger, better stuff. So
you've actually investigated quite a few really, really cool cases that I'd like to speak with you about. And when did you really become big time? When do you feel like you really became an official investigator?
That's a good question. I think after the one I did in Oklahoma, that one there, the one I did, it was last year when I got that. There was so crazy. The stuff I saw there it just blew me away. It really did. I don't say this lightly either. This place in Oklahoma made Skinwalker Ranch look like Disneyland. It really did. And I don't say that lightly. I'm being so serious on that, because the stuff that was there, I couldn't wrap my brain around what I was seeing. But it was that case, I think, in my mind, that put me out there. But right before that, I actually got lucky and was cast for a television spot in a show that they do in Canada called Red Earth Uncovered. And she interviewed me about, a couple UFO sightings and stuff, because at the time, this is what I was doing. I think also, too, this helped me get on the map a little, is what I was doing, which I still do almost every night. And I also sent you videos of it and stuff. I take a laser and a flashlight. I flash them at the sky.
Yeah.
And I did that all summer long, every night. And to the point where these things would mimic my flashes. And then all of a sudden they'd get lower and lower. And at the time I had my ex-wife, she it got to the point where she was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going inside. Because these things would come all the way down to the yard. And then the one came in the house, matter of fact, the one time. So
what were they exactly?
Well, you know what? It's a good question. They would be different colored blinking lights. And I would get crafts to come out too. Like, for instance, these, the one night this happened, it was the same night. It was, the sun was just going down. And I said to my ex, I go, oh, do you see that? Look at those two orbs out there. I said, they're falling with each other. And I'm kidding you, at the snap of a finger, they were craft. They were cigar-shaped crafts. I was like, whoa. And matter of fact, my wife yelled so loud into my ear, I turned around and said, shut up. And turned back around. But and again, no joke, at the snap of a finger, they were orbs again.
Wow.
And they fell. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So, and I had the laser out and I had hit one of them with it. So about an hour later, I come back outside and my ex goes, hey, there's an orange light sitting in those clouds. I said, what? So I go over and look. Sure enough, there it is. It's sitting in the clouds. As soon as I made an eye contact with it, it made a beeline right for us. Boom. It probably got about 25 feet from us, not yards, 25 feet. It was standing right there. And, all I can remember thinking is I was in awe. I was like, what am I looking at? It was crazy. And whatever it was definitely intelligent. 100%. I'll agree with that because, what else would make a beeline for you to sit there and then, it's just, it was definitely, to me, I think there are little probes that come out, of ships.
I'll tell you, I saw some of the video footage that you sent me of like your like security cams and stuff like that.
Yep.
And, not all of it, but a lot of it, I would 100% agree that there is definitely some intelligence behind that. It's crazy stuff, man.
Yep. Yeah, especially that one, what I'm talking about, where it comes over the car.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Dude, that was actually a funny night because I'm sitting there watching that live. I'm sitting there and all of a sudden this thing comes down. I'm like, whoa. And then it looks like as soon as I said, whoa, it was like, oh, there's a camera there. And it went right back up.
That was bizarre, man. That was really a bizarre piece of footage.
Yeah, that's crazy stuff, man. And so I don't know if you saw the ending of it. It actually comes back down around the car, tries to hide behind it, and goes in front of it and sits on the ground for a minute. And then at that point, it goes right back up into the air again.
Yeah, it's insane, man. Some of the stuff that you have is really, really insane. It's good footage, and what the hell is it, and how do you fake something like that?
That's what I mean. That's the crazy part, and I believe that stuff there. I honestly believe I brought back with me from Oklahoma 100%, because on the way back, there was this blue light following me almost the whole time. Matter of fact, when I was going through Missouri, it was getting dark. I was like, is that a blue? I was like, that same blue light again? Sure enough, it was getting a lot darker. I was heading into Ohio, and it was still there. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Yeah, so fast forward, 4 days after I got home, I see this blue light again outside. I'm like, whoa, it's still here. And so that's when I started taking photos. And sure enough, that night, I don't know if I sent you the audio or not, but I get them in my kitchen. They were in the house, 100%. And if I didn't send it to you, I'll send it to you. It's basically, I kept seeing an orange orb out of the peripheral vision. I said, am I seeing stuff? Or maybe I stayed up too late or something, Yeah. So finally, it was right in front of me and it blinked. I was like, oh, that's there for sure. So what I did was I took my phone, I put it on manual video. I turned the decibels and hertz all the way up. I faced it out the window. I put a Bluetooth in my ear and I walked upstairs and hit record. So as I'm laying in bed, I can hear all this through my ear. It's loud because I have everything turned up. All of a sudden I hear this clicking sound. I'm like, what is that? And then all of a sudden I hear someone messing with the china. Like, no joke. It was like someone opened a cupboard and started picking up glasses. And at that point I was like, oh my God, someone broke in the house. Someone's downstairs. Oh my God. And then I hear this clicking. And then all of a sudden something slams so loud down by my phone. I almost had to take the Bluetooth out of my ear because it was so loud. It was like, I was like, whoa. I was like, what is this? So I was like, I got to go down and see what this is. So I ran downstairs and nothing was there. I was like, wait a second. They couldn't have got out because the door was shut. I didn't hear the door shut or slam or anything. No windows open. So I was like, oh, this is crazy. So the next night, I am recording, and this is how I found this out. This is actually wild. I accidentally, the screen door was shutting, and I was recording still. And as it shut, I was recording the glass. And all of a sudden, I just started seeing this stuff moving. I'm like, what am I looking at? And sure enough, you can see, I'll send you the video, you can see them moving. These entities moving in the background. It's wild, man. I'll send you the video. It's crazy. But from there, I discovered you can see these things through the door, through the window. Like, and I sent you a couple of shots of like the screen door.
Yeah.
Of like, so yeah, something sitting there staring in at me or something.
It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, dude, it's insane.
I thought it was funny because I had told you that I had interviewed David Eckhart, and you said, yeah, David kind of uses the silver and the different lenses as to where you use the. So you guys, do you believe that you guys are seeing the same types of entities?
That's the thing is like, so me and David are friends, and we talk, a lot back and forth. And I think the difference between me and his is he uses a jug, and I use a screen door. I mean, that's just the way. And I think I just discovered, matter of fact, this is actually crazy. About 3 nights ago, I discovered through a mirror. Oh man, I was like, whoa. I saw some pretty wild things through it. I was like, oh my goodness. But anyways, I didn't mean to get off track, but I believe that, I think his are a little bit more darker than mine are. Okay. I really do. I think because some of the stuff he had sent me, these photos, I deciphered them, and I was blown away by what I saw. Yeah,
he has some crazy stuff too, man. It's scary, downright scary.
It is. You're 100% right. And matter of fact, when I deciphered what I was looking at, it ended up being an abduction. It ended up being an abduction happening to an abductee, and it was scary because the end of it is gruesome. He gets his head chopped off.
Wow.
And you can, and I'll show you this. I'll send you the video of me describing it and how to see it yourself. It's insane, man. But I was like, oh my goodness, this is scary stuff.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's crazy. And I have a screen record of me explaining everything. You'll see. I'm telling you, you'll see it. It's. I posted it on TikTok, and you get people, oh, you're crazy, blah blah blah. But then you have the other half is like, oh my God, you're totally right. I can see what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's going to get validated on stuff like that because But,
well, you see different things. Different people could see different things. It just depends on how they see stuff. I mean, basically, I know it sounded corny, but it's true.
You're 100% right. Absolutely. Yeah. Because you know what? I'll send I'll take a photo and someone will be like, oh, I see a face here. I'm like, I'm sure you do. You probably do. I'm just seeing a different one as you do, because that's what I learned that they do is they'll put images on these screens, but they won't move. Some of them, there'll just be a photo, you know what I mean? Like an imprint of like a face. But then you'll actually see in the one videos I have, you can see them 100%. They're blinking and they're staring at you.
You learned a lot of this from the Oklahoma investigation, right?
Yeah, a ton of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I told you, like, the Oklahoma stuff blew my mind because it opened up a whole new light on the UFO field. It really did for me.
Well, let's back up to that story. Let's back up and talk about that investigation a little bit.
All right.
I'm sure that my audience hasn't heard the story yet, and it's a pretty fascinating investigation.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. All right, so here we go. So the witness's name is Steve. I'll just give his first name. Anyways, I was sent his information, so I called him. And this guy, off the bat, he knew nothing about the UFO field. Absolutely nothing. He didn't even know what a portal was. Seriously, I had to explain to him what a portal was. I spent hours on the phone with this guy. I was like, you know what? Let's do messenger video, so because I want to see this stuff as it's happening. And I still have a lot of video. He wasn't joking around. I mean, these lights were all over the place. It was wild. But so it started off with a gunshot, basically. He was doing his laundry outside. And as he was coming in, he said a yellow orange light was coming in pretty close to him. And so he basically ran in or went back inside. The second night, he's out there doing the same thing. So this time he has a 22 on him, and he shot at it. He shot at the UFO.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, that was a bad idea. Because after that, stuff just hit the fan. And it started getting more and more crazier there. And he had, so this is the really one of the compelling parts of this account, where it really rings true to me. And this is why, one of the reasons why I actually drove out there. So it's about 2:30 in the morning. No, 3 o'clock in the morning. I live in Pittsburgh, and he lived in Oklahoma, so time difference for sure. So he calls me. He's like, "Bro, I just saw this entity." He's like, "It looked like a dog." I said, "Really?" He goes, "It was hopping." I said, "Huh." He goes, "Dude," he goes, "Why would Jesus do this?" I said, "What?" He goes, "Why would Jesus let this happen?" I said, I don't know what to tell you, Steve. Like, I'm not I'm not a religious person. I said, but, that I don't think Jesus has anything to do with that. I said, to be honest with him, you know what I mean? I didn't know what to tell him, to be honest.
Yeah.
And he was in tears, like to the point where, like, he wanted to, I'm not kidding, he wanted to almost end it. I was like, bro. So I talked to him till about 6 a.m. my time.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was pretty wild because this guy was crying and everything. He couldn't believe what he'd seen. I was like, dude, he's like, "Girl, let me send you a couple of photos." So he sent me a photo. It was dark. Like, it basically looked like a window getting opened up. There's this a yellow part. And as I brightened it up, I was like, "Oh my God, there's something there." And so I brightened it up even more. And I think I sent it to you. There's an entity staring in the window.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, and it looks like a dog. It kind of looks like a dog. I was like, "Oh my goodness." I was like, "There's something here." I was like, "This is crazy." So I wanted to see more of that, I'm like, wow, I really got to see this stuff. And so he had sent me a couple other photos. He sent me this one. This is pretty wild. It's a UFO sitting out in this field. It's huge. It looks like a rectangle. And it's just moving around doing whatever it wants. It was crazy because when I got out there, I'm like, dude, the neighbors are like a half mile away, but still you can see this stuff,
Yeah.
Like it's in the middle of a field. And as it kept going, he would send me other pretty compelling photos. I'm like, man, if he knows nothing about the field, yet he's sending me a photo. This is pretty wild. I don't know if I sent it or not. It's a UFO pretending to be a tree.
Wow.
Now, the UFO is in the shape of a rectangle. It's green, and it's sitting it's sitting in the trees. And I'll show you. It's plain as day. You can see it 100%. It's not a tree. But this is the kicker: is there were 2 white unmarked helicopters flying over his field. So
you think that they can use like screen images, almost like what people say that aliens do when they abduct them?
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a good thing because that's actually a book I'm working on right now. It's going to be about screen memories.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it goes pretty deep. It's pretty wild stuff. Matter of fact, I found a really good pattern that no one's ever really mentioned. And I'll just throw it out there real quick. So in screen memories, you have a couple different things that are like the most famous ones. You got owls, deers, people, cars, and houses, But for all these, like if you're seeing an owl or a deer, for the most part, you're looking out your bedroom window. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but for the most part, you're looking out your bedroom window. All right. And then if for a person, it's either definitely you're at the door of your house. If if you're not really seeing a person that's really there. And then the vehicles, you're also looking out your front door when you see these, or your window of your house, because, for instance, for an example, like, you'll hear those accounts where someone was like, yeah, the vehicle came up the road, but I never heard it touch the gravel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So like that. And then houses, you're in your car because, you're out driving around and, that for the most part, those are buildings that aren't really supposed to be there, So I went through a ton of them to connect a lot of that. And, it just so happens I'm pretty spot on for, nailing the types of screen memories they use.
That whole part of the field interests the heck out of me. I mean, it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's wild. But so to get back on track, I'm sorry. There's just so much stuff that's involved in this case.
Oh, you're good, man. You're good.
All right. So like the screen memory part that you were talking about, though, out there, they were using, like, on the third day I was there, they were I'm not kidding you. This was an empty field. By the third day, there was stuff everywhere. There were bushes. There were trees. There were just a ton of bushes that weren't there before, and a bunch of trees in one spot that weren't there. Like, it was crazy. I have one photo where the tree is off the ground. It's not even touching the ground.
Wow.
It's I ain't kidding. I'll send it to you. It's floating in the air.
Did you ever try to touch one yourself?
No, because every time we get closer to it, this is the crazy part. Every time you get close, they would disappear. it was like, you know what I mean? Like, as you get close, like I would literally try this too. I'd lean forward and lean back, and it would be there, and then it wouldn't be there.
Weird.
This is crazy. Yeah. So their deception game was on point. Like it was crazy. So, all right, so to get back to where I was, I'm sorry, is so those on all that video that he sent me. Matter of fact, the very first one, and I'll send you. It looks like a string of Christmas lights coming down from the sky. Huh. It's crazy. I'll send it to you. It's wild. And there's probably 6 of them. They're just sitting there in the field, getting it coming down. It was crazy. But so I finally drive out there in November, and the first day he's showing me around the area and stuff like that. The first night was uneventful in a way. If I would have known what I knew for the second and third nights, I probably would have had a really good first night. But basically for the first night, we saw these red lights. Basically, they're all sitting in the sky out and way back in the field, and they turn into a triangle. I was like, wow. I was like, that's crazy. And then all of a sudden, there's another triangle. I was like, whoa. So they're going down, they're touching down into the field. And the crazy part is in the morning, I'm like, holy crap, there's trees out there. How did they do that? You know what I mean? Like it was, and then, come to the third day, I realized there was nothing out there. there was no trees. But, yeah, so and his dog kept running and barking. And the odd thing was, I didn't know this dog. His name is Cole. I'd yell for him. He'd come right back. And I was so thankful for that because, so we move on to the second day. And for the most part, he would tell me, hey, bro, these things are in the trees. I'm like, in the trees? We're sitting in the trees? He's like, yeah, oh, yeah. And I'll send you a photo of this, too. I got one glaring at me from the door. He is sitting there staring at me with 2 big, bright yellow eyes just staring at me. And I'll send you that. It was pretty creepy looking because it's broad daylight.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, I'll send that to you. So I'm actually the only one home in the middle of the day. So I'm out there messing around, recording. And I go across this tree and come back. And I decide to look at my stuff. I'm like, looks like there's something in the tree. So I go back, sure enough, there it is, plain as day. I got a picture of it. I think it's a glimmer man staring right at me like the Predator.
Oh, yeah, like the Predator when it's...
Like a cloak.
Yeah, cloaking form.
Yep. Yeah, and did you see that photo at all?
I didn't see that one. I'd like to, though.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best photos of the glimmer man. I'm not kidding. It's probably one of the best ones that's in the field. And I'll send it to you. It's crazy. I actually have a video of it.
Oh, wow.
But, because the picture's from a still. Anyway, so I go, oh my God, there's just someone staring at me. Wow. My heart's going 1,000 miles an hour. I'm like, you know what? I didn't drive all the way out here not to get anything. So I took a step forward, and as soon as I took a step forward, it disappeared. I was like, oh, and I was like, dang it. But at that point, I was like, run. Yeah. So I ran right inside like Scooby-Doo. I was like, peace. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I saw that. That was wild because it was really there. And then when it disappeared, there was nothing there. It looked like standing water.
Wow.
It's crazy. So yeah, I was like, he's right. They're in the trees. And so finally, so that night, sorry, I'll speed this up a little bit. That night we're outside. I'm smoking a cigarette and I go, bro, did you see that blue light just disappear in the yard? He goes, dude, check this. He's like, there was just a red light that landed in the field across the street. I said, well, go get your flashlight. He goes and gets his mag light, comes back, and boom, I hit it across the street. There it is for the first time in my life. There's extraterrestrials standing right there. They're standing on a line past the barbed wire fence. They're moving in a wave back and forth. They all had these brown outfits on. They had green goggles on. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like, oh my.
Were they like the gray type? What were they? What did they look like?
You couldn't tell. They had all these, the brown outfits they had unmasked any look they had.
Wow.
They were all brown outfits from head to toe. But they had these bright green goggles on. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I'm sitting here hitting them with a flashlight. You know what I mean? They know I was hitting them, you know? And this is the crazy part is I got off 2 shots and my phone dies. I was like, no. And of course, you know what I mean?
Yep. But
whenever I hit them with the flashlight the first time, that blue light I saw in the yard, one of them had it right in his hand and it disappeared. I was like, whoa. And
if you were to speculate, what do you think the goggles were for? Because I've got an idea.
I think it was for them to see, because I think it was when they went invisible.
Yep.
That was how they were able to see everything.
Yep. Because David and I spoke about that. He said, Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking one time about when we do have the ability to cloak ourselves, we'll be able to cloak everything but our eyes. We won't be able to hide our eyes. So, yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. So, I thought I'd ask you what you thought, because that's exactly what I was thinking too.
Yep, exactly. And so this is actually, I'll tell you. So, yeah. So after I saw it, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was so happy. I was like, man, I'm so glad this trip wasn't a bust. You know what I mean? Like that right there. I was like, this is it. Awesome. And so I go back to hit them again, and they're just disappearing. And I got a shot of it. And this is the crazy part. I'll send you two. They're all standing there without their brown outfits on, and I got them. I got them standing there. They were taking directions from this person in the middle of them. They were. I think it was a training exercise. I really do. I believe it was a training exercise they were doing, and I believe that's what they were coming down to do. Or they were like the scouts for the what was going to happen the next night. But I'll send you a photo of these guys so you can see them. I mean, they all look different. They all look different. None of them look the same. It was crazy.
Do you mind if I post those on my website?
No, not at all. Nope, not at all.
Cool. Because then the audience can kind of jump on there and see what we're talking about.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of this stuff, they're going to be like, you're going to have to like look at this stuff. And believe me, it's not easy. Some of it's not easy to see, but you'll see what I'm talking about. As soon as you see one, you're going to be like, oh my God, here it is. And it's going to be like, boom, boom, boom. It's going to be like one of those 3D images you look in those books, you used to get in school. Like that. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of these, because I told you their deception game was crazy. They know what they're doing. They're not stupid. They know they have a phone. They know I'm going to try to take photos, and that's it. But yeah, so the dog tried chasing them. Oh. And the dog could see them while they were running. That's the crazy part. And in the one photo, you can see this giant. I mean, this guy had such a big head. It was a big green head. He did. It was huge. And he had two big black eyes, and he had his arms behind his back. And he's standing right there by the hay bale. And this dude was standing, he stood over the hay bale. So I was like, wow, he's a tall dude. And I have a picture of him. And that was right as they were getting ready to be invisible. And the photo I have is you'll see them. There's one on the right and one on the left. You'll see a brown outline of them. And you'll see the goggles on top of their heads getting ready to disappear. Like, you see exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm glad I described it for you. So when you do see it, you're like, oh, okay, that's what he's saying. Okay, that's what he's talking about, Because like I said, they weren't stupid. They know I was trying to get a photo of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Obviously, they're not stupid. They can cloak themselves and do all kinds of stuff that we apparently don't have the ability to do ourselves yet.
Dude, tell me about it. And you know what the crazy part is? I got you'll see in the photo, there's a tree right there. Dude, it looks like the tree was opening up to let out or take in this big green block.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I have it. I have it on a photo, and I'll send it to you. That too. But I always think about that. Probably every day. I'm like, I wonder what that was. Like, I wonder what that green block was for. But yeah, it definitely opened up out of the tree. I was like, whoa, this is insane. So, but anyways, after that night died down, I'm gonna be straight up. I don't even remember going to bed that night, because that's how much adrenaline was going through me.
I bet.
I was the only one that would stay outside. I would stay outside with this dog all night. And I could hear them messing around beside me, all this stuff. They would be tapping me. They'd tap me on the shoulder, all this stuff. It was crazy. You'd see little sparkles going around. It was wild, man. And I was like, man, I'm so happy I got to see this. Like, I was saying it out loud, But every once in a while, his dog would go running towards that barbed wire fence. And finally, the one time, I hit it with a flashlight as he's going over there. And no joke, there's nothing over there. All of a sudden, this thing, he has his hands on his knees, and it turns towards the dog. All of a sudden, he's visible. It turns towards the dog, and this thing had an elongated skull. I was like, whoa. I was like, get back here. I was like, oh, get over here. Yeah, but this thing was crazy. But it smiled. It smiled at me. I was like, okay. So, okay. But so that night ended. The third night, I had car troubles. So I couldn't leave that day, which was awesome, because that night, we didn't have too much stuff during the day, but as dusk was coming, there was fog rolling in on the ground, very low to the ground. that was coming right in. I was like, whoa, you don't see that. You know what I mean? Like, it was fog just rolling right in. And that was also the day, bro, that they started their own, fake trees and fake bushes and stuff in the field. Like, you just saw it. I'm not kidding, dude. There was one tree there. By the third day, it looked like an orchard of trees. Like, it was crazy.
That is bizarre.
Dude, it was insane. I was like, wow. I was like, this is really cool, But they were landing crafts in there. I do believe that. I believe that they were landing, but they used portal. And I don't know if I sent you the photo of the portal. Did you get the photo of the portal?
I may. I'd have to go back and look.
Okay, it has 3 steps, and then there's a square block. And they would run up those steps and jump right into it and disappear.
Yeah, I don't think I have that one, but I'd like to see that.
I'll send it to you. That's plain as day, too. It's you see the 3 steps in the square block, boop, right in there and gone. But so that third day, it comes in the dark. I told you the fog was rolling in. I'm like, this is weird because you can see lights in the distance, green lights, blue lights, yellow. I'm like, what is going on here? So as it got dark, Steve comes in and goes, bro, there's a mosquito being in the driveway. I said, what? I said, what are you talking about? So I go to the window. I noticed that my doors on my car are wide open. All the doors are wide open on every other car. And look, I said, I locked this. What's going on here? Sure enough, I come back. I take a picture of the window. Sure enough, there's this mosquito, dude.
Wow.
Plain as day. And like I don't know if I say that, but I have the photo of him. He's got a big, long red nose with a white bulb at the end and 2 white eyes.
How big was this thing?
He was big. He was big. He was probably at least 6 foot tall. But you can tell him he's coming right up to the window. I was like, whoa. So I go close to the window because I'm like, man, I drove all this way. I'm getting into this. I don't care. So sure enough, I look out the window. It's like someone turned the lights off outside. I go, what the hell? It's all dark. I'm like, wow, this is wild. And the one guy that was there, he goes, hey, bro, he's like, come downstairs. He's like, look out here. I went into the basement. I looked out into the window, and there they are for the first time in my life. Also, entities that had clothes on, like us. The one lady, she had a green dress on. She had yellow, she had orange skin, black polka dots, and it had a light glow to it. And the one guy had a red jacket on. He had 2 stalks coming off his head, and he had a face just like ours, and he had jeans on. And the one guy had like a very elongated head. He was kind of creepy to look at. So I only focused on these 2, but they looked right at us and waved at us and smiled.
What the hell were you thinking, man? You were probably like, I'm in some shit now, huh?
Dude, really? I was like, what am I seeing right now?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. So long story short, this is what happened. They were basically doing tours of our vehicles with a ton of entities coming in, dude, a ton of them. They were just coming in out of nowhere. Every 15 minutes, there would be a new group of entities coming in, right? My phone would work here, would work there. We kept shutting off. I was like, man, I was getting so upset, But it was cool to see with your own eyes, seeing all this stuff. And so during each break of the tours, that lady with the orange skin, the glowing skin, I don't know, you could tell she was sitting in a UFO, but she was like doing like her own thing. You could see the glow of I'd say an iPad maybe, glowing off of her face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she was sitting in the dark. Like, it was so crazy. I'm like, what the heck is happening?
They
It's
were probably
crazy.
giving tours of Earth crafts. They're like, look at this old machinery that only can go on the ground,
You're right. Yeah, you're right. And I went out to ask a question. And I went outside where they all were. I was like, hey. I said, what's going on? I said, what are you guys doing here? I was like, this is crazy. And they all smiled at me. And all the kids, by the way, the groups were kids. They looked like kids to me, like 15, 16-year-old kids. And they all had brown outfits on.
It was a field trip.
Dude, you're right. It was. And they had like these corn stalks coming off them. Like, so you'll see, I have a photo. I have a photo of this tree during the day. There's nothing around. I have a photo of them all standing around it. And you'll just see these big, tall mounds of grass that are in like a shape of a human. Do you see those?
No. Send me them. Send me them, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, but you'll see what I'm talking about. They're all just big, tall mounds of grass. But they're in the shape of a human. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Dude, it's crazy. So that's what the brown outfits were for. The brown outfits were for, in case I took a photo, they wouldn't look like themselves. They would look like something different.
Kind of like a green screenish type deal, or
You're 100% right. It was like a cloaking device for them. Like, it was wild. And so I started singing, so I could sing, all right. So they were smiling and they started clapping at one point. And so I went in, I said, man, I wonder if I can ask him any more questions. And I heard in my head, no. So
wow.
I go, oh, okay. And so at one point I'm sitting there trying to get more photos, and dude, this is where it gets mind blowing, because I think about this part every single day of my life now, every single day. I look out the window, there's nothing there. Like, somebody turned on the lights again. I'm like, what the heck? All of a sudden, this thing falls. I don't know what it was. It's like someone turned the lights back on. There were entities and higher up entities just sitting in these round circles, staring down at all the activity that's happening. Like they were running, you know what I mean? Like higher ups, they were looking over there, you know what I mean? Like to make sure that everything was going right. Yeah. They were standing up there like that, looking down at it. There was 3 portals, right? This is crazy. I'm not kidding. They were in the sky. One was behind the tree, but the one had a kid and his dad sitting on his couch watching this. I'm not kidding, bro. I was like, what?
like a human?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, he was green. And his son was like ecstatic. He was going crazy. He's like, oh, and this is the crazy part. Is the stuff behind them. That's what I was most interested in. So I was like, what does he have in his house? You know what I mean? Like, What do they have? And I couldn't recognize anything. I was like, wow, this is insane. Now, this all happened in 30 seconds, by the way. So the next one I see, there's an auditorium. It's a bunch of entities sitting, watching this happen in an auditorium. A bunch of them just sitting there watching this go on.
Kind of like this is all entertainment for them.
Yes. Like, yeah. And like, basically it's like a live thing that they were doing for like TV or something. You know what I mean? Like, And the third one, no joke, to me, it looked like a college, I guess. It was like a college balcony, but it was huge. It had a black banister that went the whole way across. And there were entities on probably six steps deep up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, they were all waving and laughing. I was like, whoa, this is insane to me. Like, it's crazy. It was mind blowing, dude. And when I saw that and they realized I was looking out the window, that was it. That was gone. And the light was off. I was like, whoa, I can't believe this. Like, that was insane.
You were in an extraterrestrial reality TV show.
Dude, I honestly believe that. I really do. I think because, I was one of the only ones that wasn't scared to go outside. But after I asked my question, I told you I heard no in my head. So I went outside. After that, there was no more interaction. They were like, no, they would literally squat down and not say a word.
Huh.
They wouldn't say a word. The kids would just stand there still. And then the teachers, I'm guessing, they would just squat down and not say a word.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so that's what happened, dude. I'm talking from 10 o'clock at night till 6 a.m. That's how long that lasted. You could hear them running on the roof. Like, bro, I ain't kidding. Like, just like pounding, running on the roof of the house.
Wild story, man.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's 100% true. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I couldn't get these. And dude, check this out. I even have a photo that's like dude, they were showing a screen outside. I have a photo of this. Basically they were showing, I don't know what it was, but it was like some people, it was humans going through another human's house while they slept. It was crazy. And I have a still of it. So you'll see like, there's a projection screen going and it'll show it right there, dude, right in midair.
Weird. Yeah, send them over, man. We'll put them up with the episode.
Absolutely. But yeah, what I tell you is the complete truth. Like the complete truth. It was insane.
Well, man, I've heard lots of weird and lots of strange things, and this is one of the strangest. But I mean, who am I to say that it's real or not real? I didn't experience it, and that's how I got to roll with it,
Oh yeah, I totally get it. I 100%. And that's the thing is, I was worried about talking about this, and I'm like, you know what? What happened happened. I can't change it. And if I were to try to change it, I just wouldn't do that. And that's what I mean. I couldn't believe. I felt like I was out there what are the odds of me going out there, and that's what happens? You know what I mean? It was like they were waiting for me to go out there. I don't know. But either way, I took some back with me. That's for sure. And that's what you see on the, you know what I mean? See all that stuff on the camel and the screen door.
Well, that's kind of neat too, that kind of spurred more activity for you to be able to collect.
100% right.
So you also investigated the Owlman over there in Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, I did. Yep. Yeah, good. Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up too, because I'm gonna be honest with you. It's I'm getting a lot of publicity about it, and I'm really enjoying it because it should be. It's an entity that's not really talked about too much, you know. And I'm glad I could have the information about it. I really do. And so that one happened a couple years ago. But I'll start off with that. Basically, the Owlman is known to be anywhere between 5'3" and 5'6" feet tall. It's a big owl. Obviously, it's got big red eyes. Wingspan anywhere between 16 and 20 feet. And it, like I said, it's got, you know, but the one I collected, it had golden colors on its stomach, and had a white outline to it, and you know, and his feathers were dark gray. But yeah, so that started out with this man. He said him and his buddy were in his garage playing some music, and his buddy was thirsty, so he went and got him a drink. He's coming back, and his buddy's playing the piano. And as he's coming back, he looks up and goes, "Wow, is that a hang glider in the sky?" And sure enough, it turns its head. And he's like, "Oh, that's not a hang glider." And as it got closer, he's like, "Oh my gosh, that's a giant owl." He's like, "That thing has to be 5 feet tall." He said it was massive, but it basically came in, it circled around, and then went off to the east. But yeah, that was his sighting. Now, he had another sighting as well about, I'd say, 2 months before that. He was coming out of his driveway, and something flew over his car. And he said the wingspan on this thing was huge. And sure enough, it ended up being the thing that he just saw. But I mean, that's the initial sighting. But if you want me to go into it more, I will.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Let's hear it.
Okay, so after that, he gave me a call, whatever. And okay, so this is a couple of things. I apologize for getting mixed up here. So another part that happened in this was this guy had a ton of cats. And when I went up there, he's right. There was like at least 6 or 7 cats I saw. And so his cats were disappearing. And one night, he heard like claw, like bone on metal. You know what I mean? Like a clinking sound like that. And so what had happened was this owl took one of his cats. And sure enough, Craig on Three Beards, he nailed it. I left that out of my investigation on purpose. So if someone were to, fabricate my stuff, they wouldn't have all the information I have. So, but he was right. It left a pellet-shaped thing of his cat, like bones and everything.
Wow.
On top of his barn, of this little barn. I call it a pump house, but yeah, on top of the barn, no joke. And so this guy was like, "What the hell is this thing?" So finally, he's like, he got word that this thing might be coming out of a mine. So what he did was went and got a job at a mushroom farm. And if you know anything about mushroom farms, they're dirty.
Oh yeah, they smell like shit, literally.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and they use dynamite to blow more, holes in the caves and stuff. And so basically when he was done, he went and got a job there. Now this guy is not an idiot. He had a ton of solar panels that did all of his electricity. He had his own fish tanks where he raised his own fish to eat. He had his own gardens. Like he was not a moron. This guy was very smart. So he took it upon himself to go get a job at this mushroom farm. And while he was there, he got wind that there was so their quads or four-wheelers kept coming up missing. And finally they put cameras in. So they caught these teenagers stealing their four-wheelers. And then when the sheriff asked them, why are you doing this? And they had shotguns with them and everything. And he goes, because there's a giant bat that lives in these caves. And we've seen it a couple of times and we want to kill it. And the guy was like, oh man, it must be living here. And
validation.
Yeah. So what I did when I was up there, I actually went and tried to find this location. I actually found it on accident. I got lost and there was a do not trespass up. Well, I jumped over it and kept walking. But the pricker bushes and the dagger bushes got there was too many. And I could see the cave entrance, which is spooky enough in itself to see that, especially with all the brush around. I was like, oof. But the crazy thing was there was a branch laying in front of me. It was pretty damn big. And it had talon marks in it. I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like, and I'm not kidding. Like, I wouldn't say like nonchalantly, like, that's blah, blah, blah. Like, it was legit. You could see the talon marks. I was like, wow, this is insane. Because something big had to have snapped it. And for sure, it definitely was off the tree right in front of me. I was like, geez. And so what I think had happened, honestly, and this is where it gets pretty wild, I think, because I have other Owlman sightings as well, and they all pertain to music. I think that the frequency of the music is what called this thing over, except for the fact I think it was out looking for food as well. But I think when I heard the guy's piano playing from the garage, I think that's what drawed him over to him.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really do, because in another account I have, this is a big white Victorian house. The window was open on the side, and they had a piano playing. And this owl comes out of nowhere and swoops around, and it's going right by the window where the piano's playing. And so it takes off after that. But in my third account I have, these people had just got done throwing a party. It was on a Sunday, and there was music and stuff playing, whatever, but they were cleaning up at this point. And sure enough, an owl, a giant, she said had to have been 5'5", very tall owl. She said it came by, and it was circling the area. So I mean, those three, because they had to have had music playing at some point. It was a party, And I asked her too. She said, yeah, they had the radio on. I said, okay. So that to me right there tells me that there's some frequency or something that has to be getting the attention of these things.
Very possible. What part of Pennsylvania was this in?
Fayette County.
Oh yeah, that's a lot happens there.
yeah, a ton of stuff.
I've spent quite a bit of time over around Donegal, and that's a strange feeling place, man.
Yeah, you're right. I've been up there a couple of times. You're absolutely right. Yeah, okay, so then actually I said on Craig's show the other night on Three Beards, I said, I got one more, and this was about, it's probably been a week now. I got another sighting, and this is from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And it was a mechanic. He was working on a car, and as he got up from underneath it, he said there was this owl flying in. And the thing is he had the radio on. No, but it wasn't like, it wasn't symphony music or anything. He said he had, rock oldie station on or whatever, But either way, that's another one. It had music to go with it. So it has to be something with music. Music,
or maybe it's the radio frequency itself.
That's what I mean.
It wouldn't be that case if it was a piano, but that could, a certain note could mimic some sort of frequency that attracts these things. So
you're absolutely right. So I got 2 with the piano and 2 with the radio. You know what I mean? So it's something that definitely draws them in. I believe that it has something to do with that. Absolutely. And it's just crazy that. I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Sorry. So with the one in Fayette County, there was actually more than one sighting of this thing. And a mother and a child, they're going down the street one night. It's nighttime, and she calls this thing a bat because it's at nighttime. See, that's what I take into effect is it's nighttime. She's not going to be able to see the whole color of this thing, but it had glowing red eyes, and it was eating something on the side of the road. She said it was as tall as her car.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's another one right there in the same area, too. And it wasn't too far away from where he saw this thing.
I'll tell you, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, there is that whole Great Lakes region up there and all the way down, even into parts of West Virginia. It's just strange. Just strange. I grew up in Ohio, and, there's so much there. There's really so much there.
There is. You're absolutely right. Especially around the Chestnut Ridge area, like, you know what I mean? Out this way, there's a ton of stuff.
Well,
absolutely.
Chestnut Ridge, you can, like, when I stayed, like, in Donegal, you could feel, it felt different. It was a very electric, weird feeling there. Like it felt like any moment something could pop off is what it felt like. I'm glad you brought that up, because when I went into Oklahoma, it was crazy. It's like once I crossed this line into the county, I'm not kidding. I got this weird feeling
It was dull and grimy. Like, bro, it was like the sky looked different. The surrounding areas would look like, it looked like they were dead. It looked like everything was dead and dying. Like, bro, and I got a really weird feeling. I did, and I say that in my report because it was very odd. It was very odd. And like what you say, up at Donegal, I've gotten the same thing before. I was in Du Bois.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was camping out there with my son, and man, I got the same feeling that night. And that night we saw two red orbs come down from the into the woods. After my son had pleaded with me not to use a laser.
Didn't work for him, did it?
No, man. He's like, let's get out of here. He was headed towards the hills. I was like, no, let's stay. Yeah, that's my problem.
You know, it's so dense through there, and there's so many places for something to be able to hide, or and you know, there aren't a lot of people in some of those areas. So when things happen, you know, it could go undetected for a long time. People don't realize just how few people there are and how dense like the forests and things are there.
Exactly. And it comes to mind like Paul Eno's, some of his cases up there in Chestnut Ridge, those are pretty wild. Some of those, like people hearing horses that aren't there, galloping right up in front of them, then disappearing. Like, that's just, it seems like there's just a who's who of misfits of the entity world. You know what I mean? Like, they just hang out in this one area. Like, it's wild. You're right. It's crazy, especially for the population and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Like in Ohio, I felt like I was like in crazy paranormal wonderland up there because there's so much going on. You know, you have so many ghost stories, so many different crazy cryptid stories along the Ohio River and everywhere else. And then I moved down here to South Carolina a couple years ago, and I'm like, well, this kind of sucks. We got ghosts. In the lizard man, that's pretty much it. Bigfoot every once in a while, but it's the deeper I dig in down here, the more I find. So it's good. Yeah, it's getting better for me. So I don't have to feel so out of place.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you know what, too, is like up where I used to live here, it was in Renton, Pennsylvania. It was weird because if I talked about it or brought it up or thought about it, it seemed like in the next couple days, that stuff would be showing up. Like, it was so weird. Like about, I was talking to Timothy Renner the one night, and he was talking about UFO, Bigfoot and orbs. And sure enough, that night I go outside, a red orb I see going into the woods. Well, about 5 minutes later, I hear the biggest tree snap I've ever heard in my life. I was like, oh my gosh, whatever that was huge. And sure enough, I heard it again. I was like, yoink, gone. But you know what I mean? Like, it was just something I was just talking about. And all of a sudden I gave it, it's like I gave it life. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it was so weird.
Well, there's a lot of, I know, like when I talk to like Stan Gordon, there's a lot of, he works on a big theory that has something to do with like the power sources and power lines. He thinks that are along with like ley lines that are making these things or attracting these things. What do you think about that?
I'm gonna be straight. I don't look too much into that, but the electricity part of it, I don't know about the ley lines, but the electrical part of it, I do believe that, because there are a ton of cases where abduction accounts or UFO sightings or even Bigfoot sightings where you'll see there's power lines, stuff like that, or a big power area where they have, big lines and stuff like that. I'm sorry, like a transformer and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, you'll see a lot of sightings around it. So I definitely believe that it has something to do with that. But I also believe it has to do with water as well, because a lot of these cases you'll see them sucking up. Like there's a case I have in Pittsburgh. These people watch this. Matter of fact, I have a couple of them right by. They're all by power plants, because power plants are built right by water sources.
Yep.
So I have a couple of them. As a matter of fact, this is in El Rama. It's not too far from me, but they saw a UFO sitting there just sucking up water. And then and then they have a ton of power next to it. So they got the best of both worlds right there.
Even in a lot of like ghost cases, water is involved. I was
Yep.
talking with another author, Anna Maria Manalo, and it was funny because she was telling me about all these accounts that she's collected over the years and stories. And every single one of those stories, she started out with, well, there was this river behind it and there was this water. And I'm like, after about 5 of them, I'm like, Anna, do you realize that every one of these stories has water involved in it? And she's like, oh my gosh, I never put that together.
Yep.
So there's definitely something there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. A lot of people forget about water sources and stuff like that, for UFO cases. And to me, honestly, when I was picking a book to write, I was going to do that, like what you just mentioned, like water sources.
Yeah.
Because it's such a topic like that no one talks about, you know, and it should be out there more for sure.
Yeah. So do you believe that the paranormal and UFOs and everything, all of that is connected somehow?
I do in a way, because, a lot of people think like let's say, for instance, some ghost stories and stuff like that. I believe that a lot of the times, I think it's entities. I really do. I think it's entities that we can't see, like that are around my house or stuff like that. You know what I mean? Ones that are invisible, that basically they can control a switch and do what they want, and go in. Because like I've got photos of their equipment at my house, like of their stuff. It's not my stuff, that's for sure. But I do believe that a lot of them have a connection with each other. I do. Let's say the missing 411 stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I believe that is what's happening. Like I believe that they're, like you just said, like entities and ghosts. Like I believe it's one and the same at some point in some of those areas. I do. I really do. It's just
or people are just getting mixed up and thinking because it has this set of characteristics that it must be a ghost. Or
exactly.
Yeah, it's a pretty deep thought, actually, when you actually stop to think about how this stuff could all be connected and how one could be the other. You just are missing something, or that's what your mind has set for you, Exactly.
You're exactly right too, because I remember hearing a ghost story, say that in quotes, but the ghost story that they're talking about, it happens in this apartment. And the one lady said at one point, it looked like she had real big black eyes and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, okay, well, possibly it might be an entity, like an alien, you know what I mean? Who knows about that? But when she mentioned and they were so set on this being a ghost story, because, of the stuff that was moving back and forth. Well, think about what I just told you about my kitchen. There was nothing, you couldn't see them, but they were going through my kitchen, that's for sure. You know what I mean? They were moving dishes and everything else.
Right.
So, that stuff there, it's just, you're right. I think it's one and the same at some point. Like, it's just, you're right. It's a deep thought. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. It's neat to think about that stuff, take a few minutes and just stop and think about how these things are similar and how they could be one and the same. It screws with your mind a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you got coming up, man? You got this book you're working on. When you firing that out?
That should probably be out. I'd say probably a year and a half. I had a big setback. I had a couple people get COVID in my family, so it set me back a little bit in that. But I'm back on track. I'm starting to write that, and I hope to have that out, and hopefully in a little under a year and a half. So, and then I just got asked. I'll have to get you the actual festival name, but I was asked to speak at a festival coming up this summer. So,
okay,
finally for the first time about the Owlman. So, so I hope that that'll go good there. But other than that, I just if people want to get a hold of me, they can get a hold of me on Facebook at Ryan Fusco and message me, or they can get a hold of me at ryaninvestigator@gmail.com. And basically, I'm just taking in a bunch of accounts that people email me about and stuff like that. So
awesome. Well, we'll have to have you back on right before you release that book. That way we can.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send you a copy too. Yeah.
Yeah, we can get people excited about it, and I'd like to read it. I heard an account of a guy who said that when he was a kid, Big Bird was showing up in his room.
Yes. Yeah.
So weird, man.
I put that in my book. There's like stuff like that, like people's favorite things will show up. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, let's say incident at Devil's Den, Terry Lovelace. He said monkeys were showing up in his room. You know what I mean? Like, they're not monkeys, obviously, you know?
It's bizarre.
But yeah, it's crazy. Yep.
It is.
I think screen memories real quick too. Also, you know, the people like back in the 60s and 70s, 80s, they're like, yeah, well, they told me this and that about the earth. You know, we got to take better care of the earth. I think those are screen memories. I really do. I think those are, and I'm not taking anything away from those guys. I just think, honestly, I think those are screen memories. And I think something else happened. I don't think that they actually discussed that topic.
So you think it maybe they're doing that so that they don't, or so that they misremember?
Exactly. And so like maybe their time with the entities weren't that well. And then that's what they did in place of it is, yeah, we had a good discussion about this and that. And like I said, once again, I'm not taking away from what happened. They remember what they remember. You know what I mean? But just in my opinion, I think that a lot of it is a screen memory. I really do.
That's an interesting theory, man. That really is. That's going to get me thinking for sure. I like it, man. So I got one last question for you, man.
Hit me.
So, young investigator comes up, man. He's getting the itch. He's got the UFO bug. What kind of advice would you give him?
I mean, I would say dive on in. Especially in this field, you can't. This is another thing. Sorry. You know what's funny is me and you were doing this. A light just showed up in the house right behind me. That's why I got thrown off. I swear, it was pretty wild. Anyways, sorry. That was weird.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool.
That was crazy. And there's no window or nothing, so I don't know how. Anyways, so it was wild.
Awesome.
But I would tell him to go with his gut. You know what I mean? Go with his gut feeling. That's what I did. I followed what I wanted to, and regardless of what people thought and what people said, I did what I wanted to, and I you know what I mean? I laid my own foundation. Yeah. You know. And this is where it's taken me. And honestly, I think it's been pretty good so far. So, you know, just listen to your heart and do what you think you should do. And, you know.
Nothing better than doing what you love.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, hit me up one more time with where everybody can find your information and where they can look at some of your videos. And I'm also going to post whatever pictures you send me on the website.
Yeah, so TikTok with FOZZBO, and then my Facebook's Ryan Fusco. On my profile, you'll have a ton of stuff on there. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yep.
I do appreciate your time, man. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll have to have you back.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You too. Thanks.
Well, that about does it for Dreamland tonight, dreamers. Thanks again for listening, and good night.